So sometimes when I'm super pumped for a game, I just record it and then almost like give myself the delayed gratification. Like where I
Yeah,
just like I keep pausing it with like the
yeah,
excitement building within me, like, oh, okay, I'm gonna like make some popcorn or like go eat dinner with the kid. But like I know I have this game. It's right
yeah.
there. And I did that last night. And like I don't know if you have YouTube TV, but ESPN 4K channel is like a new thing for these big games. So I'm watching it on that, which is kind of weird because there's no commercials. So it's just like
Oh,
that
nice.
weird like corner of the stadium. And I
Yeah.
got this new remote, and like I swear the buttons are not centrally located. So like the fast forward button is too low. And so like
Yeah.
where I would normally have my hand on the remote, I click it and it's the exit button. And so
Oh,
I'm in
no.
like mid third quarter. It's
Yeah.
Ole Miss, Miami, amazing game. I'm so excited. I click exit and it's Carson Beck on the stage with confetti coming down.
Oh, no. I didn't know that you went to the end. Oh, that's even worse because it went down to the last like 20 seconds. Oh, that's terrible.
I know. I know. It's lame. Uh Welcome back to Aggie Pride, the UC Davis football podcast. It's heading into a work weekend, and Nick and I are doing all the things, trying to sell some things, trying to take care of our kiddos, and also glued into the transfer portal madness that UC Davis is very much a part of. And that's kind of been one of the cool things, Nick, is like some of my friends who only follow FBS football are like, oh, I saw Cal got Carter Vargas. Oh, I saw your quarterback went to Washington State. So, anyways, happy almost weekend. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I mean, it's kind of a balance right now. Like you said, I'm not used to kind of being so plugged in. I mean, before you just look at the recruits, kind of see the highlights now, but obviously the big names and guys that we just adored. And even after I think game one, Brock, on my first pod with you was like, oh man, I hope Caden, he's playing almost too well. And we joked maybe in a year from now, 2 years from now, that maybe you would transfer, but that's the state of the portal right now. And it's almost like its own our version of TV, reality TV, of seeing where people go and all this drama and everything else.
Yeah. And dude, that reminds me because one of the things that I said all throughout the year was, man, we have too much talent in the quarterback room. And I tried like not to say it that much because I don't want these kids to hear it. But like David Razor committed to, I keep wanting to say Immaculate Conception, but it's Incarnate Word, another religious sounding school.
Yeah,
Incarnate Word had a down year, but for folks who are plugged in, which all of our people are, were
of
really
course.
good. 2 years ago, they were in the quarterfinals. And I remember when Dwight and I were in South Dakota, we ran into some parents from Incarnate Word who were watching them lose at South Dakota State the same day as our quarterfinal game. So interesting to see David go there. Damon Reister's in the portal as well. But we also got some guys back. So yeah, I don't know. Like, what are you thinking? I know there's a big name coming back that you and I were texting about. Like, dude, is he gonna stay? So what do you make of the guys coming back and just kind of the portal season we're in?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think everyone's already given their 2 cents. I was just watching Plough's conference, and I love how open and honest he is, and talking about how it was disappointing for
Yep.
CP to leave, and just the state of football in general. I know, Brock, you're a diehard fan of college football, and so am I. And just hearing kind of the challenges they're having, so I'm frustrated with that because I think it makes just the overall college football worse. But in terms of Davis and what we're doing this for, Aggie Pride, it was really awesome to see how many guys are back and how they were excited about it. So I think we continue with Plough at the helm, with Sheldon and the rest of the staff are setting ourselves up. Yeah, there's going to be those edge cases, which Plough mentions, and we can get into it, where they're going to go. But I think there's such a great core of guys coming back. I didn't realize that that many guys that could potentially leave. So I'm answering your question in kind of broad strokes, and we'll get more specific. But it was actually
Yeah.
really see those guys back.
The Aggie Football Fund provides essential gap funding for the UC Davis football program, empowering the team to access vital resources for player development and program success. It also reconnects and engages former football alumni to maintain the legacy of Aggie pride and perpetuity. Through direct and flexible support, the AFF bridges funding gaps while fostering a thriving alumni community. Visit AggieFootballFund.com for more information.
This episode is proudly sponsored by Next Level Sports, delivering the best youth sports experience. If you have a young, aspiring athlete in 1st through 7th grade, this is your chance to get on the field with Next Level flag football at UC Davis. All teams are coached by a current UC Davis Aggies football player, giving kids real mentorship from the same student athletes who practice and play on the same field within the Aggies football program. All activity takes place at UC Davis Health Stadium, so you get the full game day experience every week. Whether your participant is brand new to the sport or already obsessed with football, Next Level focuses on skill building, teamwork, and growth. It's an incredible way to build confidence, make friends, and learn from true role models. Registration for the 2026 Next Level Spring Flag Football and Winter Volleyball seasons at UC Davis are now open. Spots are going fast, so sign up today at nextlevelsports.com. Give your athlete the best youth sports experience. I was going to ask you, so there's a bunch of names, and I like Insta story, which I know you're not on Instagram. You're more of an X guy. But it was, a lot of solid contributors. I'm going to narrow it down to the two who stood out to me and ask you this, first take style. Who is a bigger get in returning, Drew Cofield or Winston Williams?
That's a good question, man. I think Drew Cofield, I'll say, just for the fact that he had such a standout season, he's a true freshman, just kind of the way things are, I expected him. And just having a lockdown corner just makes our defense so much better. I think from an offense perspective, I think having Winston back as a leader, but also as an offensive weapon is huge. But Plough obviously can scheme things up. So like you said, if we're just doing hot takes here and just kind of thinking about the game, I would say I'd rather have a lockdown corner and Plough can manufacture offense. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go like Skip Bayless style and take Winston Williams just for like entertainment's sake. When I chatted at the end of the year about like my favorite moments of the year, I mentioned like one of them was just that kind of like small moment of seeing Winston after, I think it was the Sac State game, just kind of like on the bench taking it in, and he seemed kind of sad. And I was thinking he's done. And so the fact that he's back, and to be clear, like it's hard to know kids' eligibility since the COVID stuff. You get medical red shirts. I saw Trinidad Chambliss just got his waiver denied, but like I actually expected his to get approved. I know Hunter Ridley is another big name who just entered the portal, and he's actually petitioning for another year of eligibility as well. And so it's always like confusing to me, is like literally the year of someone nowadays, which it did not, it used to be very straightforward. And it used to be straightforward from a UC Davis perspective. Like we always redshirted guys, but Jordan Fisher was one of the first names a handful of years ago because he's going to be a senior, dude, a 4th-year senior though. How rare is that? Like he's only going to play college football 4 years unless he can like finagle the system somehow and say that he stubbed his toe and whatever. It is very rare for guys to just play 4 years. But Winston, I think, is a big get because of the leadership component. Like when you think of Mitchell Dixon, my wife keeps telling me, say Mitchell. That's what he told you on the podcast. Mitchell Dixon leaving and being that like spirit animal for the team. I don't think Winston's the same. I think he's a calmer spirit, but I do think he's like a teacher. Whereas Mitchell is a motivator. He's the Plough pregame speech. I think Winston is more of like the Plough in-game adjustment guy because he was always in guys' ears. But he was waving the towel too. So that's kind of my thoughts on the Winston. I do think Drew Cofield, like you and I texted about it because I doubted him coming back given what we've seen so far from the college football landscape. So I think that's big. I think he started the year really strong and played well throughout. I think there were things at the end of the year where you're like, yeah, I mean, he's a human. There's room for improvement. And I think
First.
another year under his belt is what we expected in some cases from Caden Pinnock. And so
Right.
I will switch now to one of our guys, and we had him on the pod and ate some pizza with him at Woodstocks in San Luis Obispo near his hometown of Santa Maria after the big Battle of the Golden Horseshoe victory. And that's Carter Vargas. And he messages me. He's
Yeah.
like, hey, dude, I'm going to LSU, Michigan State, Oregon, and Cal. And he chooses Cal. What do you make of Vargas to Cal?
Shoot, man. I mean, he was my favorite player. I mean, that's not anything big, but you could just tell he was different, just the way he moved. I think our QB1 said like that he moves like magic. So it's kind of validating to be like, what we saw with our eyes matches up what other programs saw. It's also nice. I know, Brock, you talked about it. We have so many similarities being from the Bay. Davis is my number one, but I do have an affinity for Cal growing up. That was my favorite college team. And I also love the Pac-10, the Pac-12. So getting talent, staying local, those are all good things. But on the other side, it just hurts, man. Like you feel like in the NBA or even in the NFL, you draft someone or even in the administration and they go somewhere else, you get some sort of compensation. Here, Davis takes a chance on this guy, cultivates him, he excels, and then he gets to leave. It does suck. I don't want to just be a downer on that, but so that's kind of my both sides is I'm happy to see him. He was incredibly talented. He was such a fun player and really hope to see him stay, and it's cool to see him at Cal, but it hurts, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I have some buddies like, and I've said this in the past too, like in town, and one of them played football at Cal, big D lineman. He makes me look small. And another guy, his daughter goes to the same school as mine, and he grew up as like the Cal ball boy for a number of years. And I sent them Carter's tweet, or it's like a tweet from someone saying like Cal just landed the most underrated running back in the portal. And they were like, is
Yeah.
this for real? Like, is he that good? And I said, yeah, I think he went to Cal because he wants to start or like get significant carries. Because if you're visiting LSU with Lane Kiffin and Oregon with every dollar that Phil Knight can give out, and it does kind of take me to the financial piece too, because it's playing time that he's seeking, but then there's also the financial component. And I really wonder, like we say one thing, our true like motivation and decisions, a lot of people don't even know why they make
Yeah.
decisions. Like if you really get to like the thing beneath the thing. And so I wonder like what the real decision was with a guy like Caden Pinnock. Was it the coaching staff at Washington State? I know there's like a little bit of connections with Boise State from what I've read online with some of the coaches that Plough might have had some time with. I think Danny was the one who texted that, like, hey, there might have
Yeah.
been Plough, maybe Plough's helping out with that. And so I think that's interesting. But I just, for someone like Carter, like staying in California, playing with a program that he's familiar with, as opposed to like going to the South or going to Oregon, who's playing in the freaking semifinal tonight for those who tap in right away. And so it'd be interesting. There's another one. Another thing I wanted to ask you, Nick, was like there's been a number of offers that we've given out to guys in the portal, at least that have been made public. And
Yeah.
there's a couple that stand out to me. One is a kicker out of Grossmont College. I believe that's down in San Diego, JUCO. And so maybe that's like the Hunter Ridley replacement potentially. And then the other one is a grad transfer tight end, similar build to Winston, Cyrus Ellison out of South Carolina State. These aren't flashy names. We don't know if there are more offers out there and guys just don't publicly declare them on Twitter. But Are there any names out there that we've offered that you're like, oh, this guy I think is going to be a potential fit? Or are there any fits, or I should say holes on the team that you think
Yeah.
like the transfer portal should fill it, as opposed to current team talent, freshman incoming?
Yeah. I can't say, not being on social media, I'm not getting the name, so I can't say, hey, this guy, but I'll just put it another way. It's like if you told me Jacob Syke was transferring next year, I don't know, our reaction would be like, that's great. And maybe look into highlights, but it's hard to kind of match that up. So we never know who's going to be coming in and what that expectation is. So, I trust the staff. They've done a great job. And I think, Brock, we were texting about it. You were mentioning that as maybe that should be our pipeline now, is these Ivy Leagues. And obviously it was Yale that did fantastic going in the playoffs. And
Yeah.
I'd love to see some name from those types of schools where there is that pipeline from, as we were joking, the Harvard of the West, the Stanford of the Valley, I think Danny mentioned. So I think that's what I'd like to see. And then tying to your second question, putting my GM hat on, my Andrew Luck Stanford GM hat, would it be too easy of a cop out to say, let's get more D line, let's get bigger, let's get stronger? On both sides of the line, man. I mean, you look at the Montana State, you look at, but obviously they won it all, and I don't know if we'll have time to talk about that, but I'd love to reload. I know we have guys that have left, some of our favorite guys on the D line, so I would love to see some emphasis there because, as I mentioned earlier, I think the offense can be seamed up. Having Batu back, having Winston back, I have confidence we're going to build up whatever QB we have, but let's get our defense because that obviously was decimated with injuries. So let's reload and get some guys in the portal that way, or hopefully get some guys that are going to step up.
Yeah, there's a few offensive linemen returning for our team, which I think Zaire Collier, I put King on Instagram. It's because his Instagram is like King05 or something. Screwed that up. Sorry, Zaire. But David Main is back. I believe Jace Rodriguez is another name that's back. You add in Winston Williams. You add in Jordan Fisher. We can talk your thoughts on quarterback potentially too, but I think Trainer Cleveland's probably the inside track guy to win that job. Something that Scott Gordon talked about was another transfer portal quarterback coming in. Scott Gordon was fired, as you probably listened to. I mean, he was so locked in, dude. And I thought his quarterback insights were phenomenal. Devin Brown's a name that's been thrown out. He's the Ohio State transfer who went to Cal, who was beat out in the job by JKS, Tosh Lapoy, De La Salle's finest, was able to secure by heading out to Hawaii back to Cal. People know how I roll. We're just flying around. I think going back to what you're talking about, though, is like there is a hole at the D line position on one side because he was the second best player in the Big Sky on the defensive side of the ball, and Jacob Syke. And Nate Rachina gone. Porter Connors and Rex Connors. My vibe is done. Rex was at the FCS showcase in Nashville, which is a cool first time event that they're trying to get some NFL scouts to, and who knows how it actually went. But I just wonder about how we reload with the portal. Like, we had 5 or 6 significant guys on the defensive side of the ball through the transfer portal last year, but they were all grad transfers. So do you do that again? Or do you say, no, we had a year to develop guys. Some of those guys are now going to be taking up their role. Cam Totten was, in Coach Plough's words, one of the highest rated recruits internally by the staff out of Folsom. He got hurt at the Cal Poly game I was at. Is someone like him going to come in and start next year at the safety position? I think there's a strong possibility. Mike Healy, College Park High School, Mushrooms, Molds, and Society was the class I took with Mike. Coaches at Truckee High School now. He put a comment, Nick, on Instagram. I said, hey, we're going to give out a hat to the best comment, and we're going to read it on the show with Nick. And he says, please discuss NIL and smaller budget schools. I kind of understand the big schools, but I would like to know more about NIL. And he says 1AA. We know he means FCS schools. What are the Aggies doing to stay competitive in the offseason? I will add, Plough said we made one of the highest offers at the FCS level to Caden Pinnock. Is that like $88,000? Is it 46? Is it 182? What are your thoughts on Mike's question? And like, what do you think we offered Caden?
Man, I just laugh, and now we get to be those old guys, man. Like when we got our summer stipends, which was like $40, I was going to the Arden Fair Mall and going and get my freshest polo, man. So just to think about those types of dollar figures just like blows my mind, right?
I know.
I know, shout out Davis, we have a collective. We obviously have a lot of things going on. So I think we're still relying on a couple of key big donors. And then in addition to the collective, Plough's last press conference, as you alluded to, was really illuminating on the rev share and how that would work. So Mike Healy, study up and check out the video. I think that will hopefully kind of make things better for the overall landscape. So I think that's my thought in terms
Okay,
of we're
I
just going to
didn't watch
guess the
that.
ball.
I didn't watch the full thing. I only caught parts of it. It was silent the first time it was uploaded, so I didn't hear it. Tell me about it because I don't know what you're talking about either. And some of our listeners probably haven't tapped into Plough's presser either.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. And Plough went right into it. I mean, the net of it is they're going to be able to do rev sharing. And what that means, any dollars that go in, whether it's game day, whether it's swag, anything that you're paying towards Davis, they can now share that with the players versus right now it's all donor driven, like I said, through the collective or just straight donations. So what I mentioned, any operation costs, those can be covered right first. So you got to make sure that the players have staff, health, food, things like that. And anything beyond that can now be invested to the players. There might be a cap. I think Plough mentioned for FBS, it's going to be like 20 million. I don't know if FCS is going to have a different level, but that just allows, again, and I was talking to Slow with the Davis Collective, there's a lot of challenges right now. So hopefully there's kind of a centralized body. If you have this rev share, that can go direct to the players. They don't need to go through all these hurdles and things like that.
Interesting. Shifting, the big shell lives in Concord. Shout out Drocknock. Says, beyond being a billionaire alum like Nick and myself, what can alumni do to help the athletic program, especially football? Duh, Aggie Pride, a UC Davis football podcast. Donating, attending, watching, buying gear, anything outside the box that's being considered. We've talked about this like 17 times on the podcast. So like, I don't want us to say the same things we've always said. We will pump the February 28th event in San Francisco where people can come to. Nick and Danny are going to be there. Brock's got a conference. He might come late. We'll see. But he says maybe an alumni career list or a forum that can help these guys after football. We can't compete head on financially. So how do we grassroots this? I know that's a meaty question. Do you have any like kind of initial thoughts or creative approaches?
Yeah. I mean, I've shared this, with the program with Josh Fleischman, who's been on. I think that is a huge thing. And you're talking about it that the school has produced so many fantastic people outside after the program, whether it's fire, whether it's real estate, whether it's tech. So I do think, and I would love to continue to see that type of investment where there's a better, using the same terminology, pipeline to say, hey, you get your degree, you have an amazing experience. So I would love to see that if we're just kind of thinking outside the box to leverage those connections, because whether your career ends after you beat Sac State or that goes beyond, you play in the CFL or you're fortunate to play in the NFL, it's going to end. And then it's the next step. And I think Davis sets you up for that, obviously.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Two other things I want to hit on, and then we're back to real life. One was like your thoughts on the FCS Natty, if you got to tune into it. 3 million people did once the game hit overtime, which is pretty big time. That's more than a lot of the bowl games out there. And then two, just remembering like this specific time of year as a player, what it was like. That first meeting when you get back after Christmas break in January, as a team, you're like not meeting normally in a football facility. I remember we used to do it like on campus at the MU, I think is where we did it. So yeah, you can start at either one that you're more interested in, but the FCS Natty, and then like, what do you remember about this time of year?
I mean, I think I'll leave the FCS natty for you. I know you've been asking me questions. I want to hear your input since you are the college football expert in general. So,
Yeah.
I'll give you my quick, I'll give you my quick anecdote of just coming back. And I think sharing specific stories, I think was after my redshirt year, which what does that mean? And not to go on a tangent, Brock, you were talking about earlier, that Miami receiver, he reclassified as a freshman. So he was technically a high school senior, if you know what I'm talking about, number 10, who scored the game-winning go-ahead touchdown, or maybe you missed it.
No,
Yeah, so
I
he's supposed
saw
to be
the
a senior.
highlight.
So I mean, it makes no sense. But anyways, after my freshman year, you remember we go to winter conditioning, which I know has shifted, and that was the season where it rained literally every day over the winter, and we're training over at Hickey Gym, and just the idea of that. So what comes to mind for me is like winter conditioning coming back, the idea of guys stepping up. And I know you probably felt the same way. It's like, hey, it's my time as a senior to be a leader. I mean, you spend 4 or 5 years, and I was just dreaming of that day where I get to lead, and break down the huddle and kind of lead the team. So there's this kind of excitement that permeates through the group, and especially with so much momentum just concluding the season a month ago and seeing one of our I would say rival, but we need to beat them first, Montana State, winning it all. So the idea is that we're coming back and having a game plan and what we need to do and how we need to get better. It's exciting, man. It really just drives it through you and everything that's ahead of us now versus where we were and just having to make up for the holes that are in the ship. Now it says, hey, it's a brand new ship. Let's get going.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's some things for sure. The difference between going into a season as a player where you know you're going to be a key contributor or a contributor, and there's a level of confidence and respect that you have from the team, and there's a real motivation internally from yourself to go do something significant, to win a championship, to earn a starting role, to win all conference, like, and just to think of each player where they're at in that journey. The names that we often talk about are the names that are guys who are going after the prize individually and collectively as a team. Like Jordan Fisher's like, he's probably thinking like, dude, I want to rush for 1,500 yards, or I want to be FCS All-American, or I'm going to be a Walter Payton Award finalist. Like that's a guy who he's probably got some pretty big aspirations this year. And then, you got a guy like Aiden Jackson or Kobe Herman, who are young incoming freshman running backs who potentially are going to get an opportunity. Herman, I followed a lot just because there was social media constantly pumping the guy up down in Southern California. And then, you got guys like Winston Williams who are coming in with a completely different mindset and loads of experience and wisdom. And your body is been through quite a bit more, most likely, than some of the younger guys. So you got a different training regimen and going to PT all the time versus some of these young bucks. Then also think of, Paul Rosa's kid, who is a walk-on out of Wilcox, who we had him on before one of the last playoff games, who, because of injuries, was able to get some PT in playoff games, mostly on special teams, and then some mop-up duty at the end. But it's like, what is that guy thinking? Is he going to have an opportunity? How does he develop under Coach Burke's program in the offseason? You think of the Drew Cofields, who are pretty freaky athletically, and he's skinny, but he's bigger in person than you think, and he's tall and he's lengthy.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is that guy going to do physically to develop his body? And then what are the Brock Galvins, who are just like hustling their ass off, aren't that gifted necessarily in some ways, but like, maybe they can make an impact too. And so I also just think yeah, go for it.
No, I mean, we would be remiss not to talk about, and you mentioned yourself, and for me as well, if there was an Aggie Pride podcast in 2012, 2011, 2010, they'd be like, hey, who's filling in the do line? Who's making up for a Jake Maxon or Stephen Wolf? They're like, who is this Nick King or Brock Galvin? These guys haven't seen the playing field whatsoever, but that's kind of the beauty of it, is that you come in, and I know you helped a lot. And I share that from day one, is I didn't see the field. I was only on special teams. You mentioned Winston Williams, not necessarily being down, but I can recall we beat Cal Poly I just played special teams, and I cried after the game because, being honest with you, I wasn't involved, and it was hard for me. And so
Yeah.
the winter going into my junior year, like you mentioned, I said, if I get a chance to be on the field, I'm not going to go off it. So I double days for strength training. I watched film as much as I can. I was locked in. And unfortunately, there was an injury with Bobby, that our guy, and it allowed me to play spring ball. And I saw that spring ball. And then from the rest of the time, like I said, I'm not leaving the field. And so, like you said, yeah, the transfer portal is great. It's going to fill some holes, but I know Plough said since day one, we need to focus on the guys within the program. He even mentioned that for the NIL stuff. It's like, we want to focus on keeping guys here. And so there's going to be guys that we aren't talking about today that are going to step up, and I'm really looking forward to it, because that's really what this program's is about, and it's going to have to be about to succeed, because we're not going to be able to get the money right now to pull those big guys in.
Well, and that's the interesting thing, though, dude, because like today, Oregon plays Indiana. Indiana is a good example of a program that used the transfer portal heavily, but not big 5-star guys necessarily. They created a really good team. Their coach is obviously ascending in every way, and earned a lot of respect. And I think what I wonder about Davis is like and I said this last week, we had our pitch down, which is real. It's not just a sales pitch. Like Plough's developing players mindset is the most important thing. And yet we did do transfer portal stuff last year that was very impactful for the team. And when we lost Psych, and when we lost I'm trying to think of losing anyone else who was in a transfer portal guy. He was probably the only transfer portal guy who got hurt significantly. At least that comes to mind. But like, that was a huge loss, and it was hard to fill that, especially when Sam went out in the last game too, Golgowski. So I wonder what the next 2 weeks are going to be like. And that's why, I've been texting you guys like, dude, everyone's listening to the podcast right now. Everyone's engaged because this is a super important season. Like, the team is taking shape rapidly. And so I was ultimately, I think I was, if I'm being honest, surprised that Caden Pinnock transferred. I expected, even though I said 38% was my guess that he would stay, I think I was lying. I was fibbing. I was trying to challenge Dwight a little bit because Dwight was bullish on him
Of
staying.
course.
Yeah, I'm always messing with him. And yet, like, when that happened, I was pretty surprised. Carter Vargas, we knew about. The other quarterbacks, even, I'm like, I'm not that surprised because I said it all along. Like, how do you keep that much talent in the room? So I'm intrigued. I don't have the answers. We're all just kind of on the sidelines watching what's going to happen next.
Yeah. Well, Brock, I know we're wrapping things up. I would love to hear your input, kind of the sights and sounds of the FCS championship. I'm also curious, as a football guy, who are you taking tonight?
Yeah, I love it. So I will say I always start with environment. I saw a lot of comments online about like this game should never go back to Frisco again. I'm in full agreement of that. Now, if it's Illinois State against um, Tarleton State and there's 13,243 fans there, then we might feel different. But like, I think most fan bases, and I asked Caitlin this during the game, I said, how many UC Davis fans do you think would be at this game if we made the national championship right now? And I won't say the number I said because I'm naturally a pessimist / realist. And so I do think that the Montana State fan base being there, but the Illinois State fan base showed out too, man. Like, how many false starts did Montana
That's
State
right.
have? Was that the crowd noise, or was that their center kind of having the yips? I coached a O-line for a year at the varsity level, and we were always in the shotgun. And Jesus Vasquez, who went on to UCLA, not to play there, but to get a degree, first in his family to go to college. Shout out Jesus, one of my favorite players to coach. Literally had multiple games where he's just chucking it over our quarterback, who was like 6'4's head, time and time again. Dude, this center from the Bobcats had the yips, Nick. He kept doing the little like, I think he had the yips. It was like me serving in pickleball. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is that Justin Lampson, and we got to hang out with Coulter when we were in Bozeman for the game. Coulter played at offensive tackle at UC Davis. His younger brother is the quarterback of Montana State, who first was at Syracuse and then was at Stanford and was like a 45% completion percentage at the FBS level. Ends up being just a beyond solid and reliable quarterback for Montana State all year. Tons of pressure. Coulter was like, dude, Colton, I messed that up. It's Colton. He's like, dude, the pressure of taking over for touchdown Tommy, who went to the Raiders, was immense. But I think for Lampson to come through on a 4th and 10 and Brock Osweiler's saying, do not bring the house again. Brock was awesome announcing they bring the house. He backpedals back, throws a perfect ball to Taco Daller, which we found out Taco's not his real name. Good to know his parents wouldn't have done that to him. But ultimately, I could talk about the game for a long time. Illinois State was the better team on the night. I feel like Illinois State deserved to win. I feel like Montana State reminded me of themselves the year before. They were tight in the second half, and they did not execute. There were so many penalties that put them in negative yardage on early downs and made it difficult for them to call plays offensively. And yet they were the deeper team. They are the more talented team. They are the team that should win. So to do it in that way, though, like the blocked kick with a minute left after they go to this kicker who hasn't been playing all year for the Redbirds, to then the extra point, no good. Like, that is tough, man. Like, that is a really tough way to go. But 3 million people, beautiful crowd in Nashville, great media coverage, tons of media coverage across the country about it. A lot of neutrals or FBS style fans tuning into the game, sending text messages, that sort of thing. Like, really good moment for FCS in a time of college football where people could say FCS football is totally irrelevant. I think there's some relevancy to the FCS playoffs still. And so for those who are like, we need to bolt to FBS, like UC Davis, just pony it up, pay the $10-15 million, get up into the Mountain West and make it happen. Like, maybe not the smartest thing if we still have a school that is not tailored for football ultimately in the way it's structured organizationally. So that's my thought on the game, man. As far as the game tonight, I'm go Ducks all the way. How about you?
Yeah, man, I feel the same way. One of my best friends went to Oregon, diehard Ducks fan. So something about Indiana, and no offense to Fernando Mendoza, it's kind of a goober. I don't know what about it in Signetti. So I'm rooting for the Ducks. I think it's also ultimately my allegiance to kind of the Pac-10 West Coast school. So I'm kind of rooting for that. They've been knocking on the door for a while. It would be great to see them, but. Yeah, man. Thinking about the Montana State game, you mentioned Lampson. I had no idea about the connection as well. What it goes to show to me, which we were talking about day one with Caden, is you need to have a mobile quarterback. And that's been one thing. It's great that a quarterback we've had historically at Davis can throw for 5,000 yards, but when it's 4th down and 10, it's a 3rd down and long. We need a quarterback that can scramble. So hopefully Plough has seen this. I don't know, more about the quarterbacks than we do in our room, but would love to continue to see mobile quarterbacks, because time and time again, those are the types of offenses that are scoring and staying successful. So that's something that stood out to me just watching Montana State's run. Obviously, they have a fantastic offensive line, defensive line as always, great running backs, but it's the mobile quarterback that can get them out of trouble to help score.
Yeah, and I don't think Trainer Cleveland is like Caden Pinnock athleticism. He's thicker, like I said last week. I told my wife, I'm like, he's almost a little bit more like Tebow. Well, not really. Like, he's not going to be running QB power 12 times at the goal line. But I went back and I watched his huddle tape a little bit more this week. I still think his number one talent is his arm. And yet he is more elusive, and a lot of his like top highlights from playing at Jesuit in high school were him extending plays and then still making the throw downfield or scrambling for a 3rd and 10 to get the first down. And so I think we're going to see that. I think he's not going to be like a dump truck back there. He's not going to be a stationary pocket passer. And yet this is the tough part. Like Caden Pinnock came on the scene and really like his best highlight of the year was probably still that initial escape in the red zone against Mercer, where he just changes direction like 3 times and then gets to the sideline and dives for the pylon. Like that play was us all losing our mind at Dwight's house. Like, holy mother, what do we have here? And I think it was a little bit too much talent to keep, apparently. We'll see how it goes moving forward. So I appreciate you joining, man. Looking forward to staying connected somewhat this off season. Have a great weekend, and looking forward to talking to you again soon, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. Looking forward to listening more, seeing what else is in store. Thank you for everything you've done. I said I missed you guys. Hadn't talked to you in a while, so I'm glad to get back on.
Yep. All right, go Ags.
Yes, sir.